your TSMs, your Sentinels. Whoever comes out and win it, I think people are going to lean in their direction.
Now we are into game. Sorry about the delay. We had a few technical issues, but we're in. And we can see Envy attacking first. This was their map pick, and it looks pretty good for them. Cloud9 have struggled a little bit on this map, at least going off recent form, but this is a great way to change up stuff for the better. Vice is under a lot of pressure very early on. Is able to still get a kill, but the B site is very much opened up for Envy, and these last two surviving members of C9 are going to be slow to the rotation, and mummAy's there waiting with the shorty right on this corner, but nobody's going to go that direction quite wisely.
Yeah, the thing is, even just holding down this angle is going to make things tough for the remaining players on the retake, and already with the information of where Relyks is, he can't flash his way out of that one. It is going to be the pistol round going the way of Envy, and once again, something that another sort of agent change I didn't really mention in the beginning was Vice, and that's the switch to Breach. Now, this is something, firstly, in North America, you don't see that much Breach anyway in comparison to EU. Like, we've even seen Scream starting to play Breach in EU just because of how effective he can be. I think, based on like a few statistics, this is only like the second time in officials we've actually seen Vice pick up Breach, so clearly something that they have been working on over on the side of C9.
It's most importantly, there's no Cypher on this defense, and usually that's a main pick. You know, he's the highest pick rate in the game currently. You would expect to have him on this B site, so I am really curious to see how Vice plays Breach in this kind of role. Very much popular in our neck of the woods, on our side of the Atlantic at least. But having a Breach and a Phoenix on the same lineup, which tends to be a similar role at least, granted they're very different agents, but played in a very similar style at least, it is an interesting one. Tenz as well as being one of the best players in the world when it comes to that playstyle, but also everybody else on Cloud9 has had a good showing. Tenz, yet again, can only do so much there on an eco, of course, as Envy picked up the first round. It seems that they are going to be moving towards A, and Relyks has a nice little off angle that they might not be picking, but he's just going to keep an eye on those ropes, whilst Team Envy try to decide which direction they want to go through. So fair to say they're a bit split on their decision.
That's awful, just awful. And I'm going to move on from that very swiftly. But it is going to be a 2 versus 4. Of course, this is a round where we can't really expect too much from Cloud9. I am really interested by the fact that they have so many flashes. Like, if you're including the paranoia as well, like, you could literally leave the whole site blind within a matter of seconds. So it almost reminds me of somewhat of I don't want to say a Puggy style, but that's what it seems like. Like, you're looking to try and take these jewels and just blind your opposition as you do it. So I'm really going to be interested to see how this plays out. And I wonder if this is more of an attempt from them to pick up rounds on the attacking side. Because that's what it seems like to me, at least. Like, getting yourself those openers. Sure, you can delay with some of the flashes, especially with Omen. That's something I quite enjoy seeing, is the paranoia to just leave basically everybody on the opposing side blind. Of course, this round, very easy in the end for Envy. A little bit of damage done initially, but not anything to write home about.
Could be waiting for the attacking side with this roster, but also playing retakes too. You know, instead of having a Cypher to try and stagger and buy as much time on B, because that tends to happen a lot, especially on this map. There's a lot of baits and rotations. So let's say C9 are running a Cypher. Envy poke around on B, and it uses all of the Cypher's kit up. Then they go around to A, and then they come back to B, and Cypher doesn't really have anything, other than maybe a camera, because everything else got used up. There's very little he could do there, but at least Breach has a lot of kit that, you know, cooldown based when it comes to his fault line, as an example. Or it could be just a case of, give them the site, we'll retake it with such an aggressive lineup that we could just play super aggro and take these fights. mummAy's going to try and do that, but they weren't looking in the right direction for Relyks to completely punish, using his flash to disengage instead of getting more. He knows that the Cypher is going to be there on the attack, FNS. And Tenz manages to trade up the numbers at least, or do a little bit more damage on his defense at least, sorry. So Envy on the back foot for this round at least.
Yeah, I would say that was a bit more of a timing issue from FNS, because it looks like the way that that's supposed to go is he holds for that push while upper is checked. So maybe a little bit of miscommunication from Envy in that battle, because I don't feel like there should be a way where your operator player just gets peeked aggressively while you're trying to hold an angle. Relyks, gotta be careful to push through, but an easy kill on the first. The trade is quick, but at this point, C9 can handle trades, as they will close out this round. Mitch with a tasty little double, and they're onto the board.
Both these teams just playing very different compositions. You know, we're sort of used at this point that Envy change up their composition based on what map they're playing. Tends to be very much musical chairs with how they want to have particular players and particular agents, and this can vary up. For example, Phoenix could be played by FNS or Kaboose depending on what map they play, which is something that you don't necessarily see an awful lot of. And even C9 Relyks is usually an Omen player more than anything. Seeing him over on Phoenix, seeing Shinobi from Sova onto Omen, and Vice away from Cypher is a sight to behold. So it's interesting to see these teams adapt with strategies. And like you pointed out before, because this is such a big money tournament, it's super important. And Tenz getting a double kill like that is a great way to open up. He's still adding to it. Doesn't need to play the jet, doesn't need to have the hyper mobility. Can still do the same job on Raze. Fortunately, Akis gets a nice shot with the Guardian. But I feel in this 1 versus 3, there's only so much that the Sage player could do. Tenz has already done his role for this round, at least.
I have the spike.
I do love me some Guardian kills. I feel like it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Sheer accuracy. And that was a nice shot on what is a tough man to take down. I don't see him getting away with anything more here, though. Shinobi quick to trade that one out. I assume they've retrieved the operator, which they have, so Tenz will be able to work some more magic in the next round. And he's definitely the danger man that they have to really worry about. Like, that operator is not going to be easy to break out. I believe as well at the Relyks in the past was also someone who opted in Counter-Strike. So I do wonder if they may even opt for a double every once in a while.
I mean, to an extent there as well, like, it was great that Tenz got the triple kill, but he was dry peaked by near enough the whole Envy team. So it was easy pickings for him. And yeah, you have the smokes, but you only have the one flash technically for Envy to push around these corners. And that's the Paranoia, which is one of the best flashes in the game, but you only get one. So Envy need to be really precise when it comes to their utility. Smoking in the right opportunities really deny area for Tenz to use this. Kind of like this smoke in the middle of mid. You can see Mitch is prepared and spots the right angle, but mummAy gets the nice pick, is watching it, baiting out Mitch to play a bit more aggro, and it's opened up. Sage no longer available on this defense could open everything up to the point now that it's pulling a few members of C9 towards mid just so they don't lose control of it.
I wonder if this isn't an attempt at a split or even just a read, because a lot of the most common ways to counter a lot of this aggression is to aggress yourself on the defensive side, take some map control in return. Vice has done just that. Do they expect it? Seems like they do. An easy entry for Kaboose. He is very low on HP, though, as he goes pushing into the side. And there's that Paranoia! They line up! Shinobi's going to get 2. He slowed them as well. The rest of his team have the chance to rotate, but mummAy is very quick on the flick to close him out. Another peek from Relyks, though, and it's another double. Everything coming up for C9. And now all that's left is the operator. Hot hands will literally burn him out of the corner, but luckily the Phoenix using the run it back is going to have to fall back into his initial position. But with only 15 seconds left, the spike on the ground, can't really expect much from the Jet in this scenario. And eventually, well, just has to make the decision to fall back and hold on to that operator.
Relyks is going to push it a little bit more, though. You can see mummAy's pretty low on health. Time's out. He does manage to get the kill, and another operator on his side. No, decided not to pick it up. Tenz already has his. Don't need to worry about that too much. Super well played by Shinobi on the Omen. That Paranoia was golden. The timing, the place that it was put, and even the peak afterwards, all just lined up for him to get a nice few kills. And even Relyks dedicating the run it back to just pick up a few couple of kills. And worked out super nicely for C9, right use of utility on two players that, you know, it tends to be Cloud9. It's Tenz. Shinobi and Relyks signed as well. I think recently have proven that they've earned their keep, and we've just seen a pure example of why that's the case. Really impressed with how they went about that.
And this is the moment as well that MV are in a bit of trouble with their economy. We can see an investment into a shorty, which, oh, well, we've seen some pretty impressive plays with a Jet shorty, the ability to get right up in the face, but it does take a moment for your aim to reset, so there's a little bit of danger. Also, Roka yesterday proving how deadly that Sheriff can be, but for now, it's going to be a very passive hold from the defense. Not wanting to get too aggressive here. I think Mitch has realized this is a round where he doesn't really have to take too many risks. Just try and burn down that clock.
There are a few ultimates available for Envy if they want to use them. The Showstopper and Bladestorm. Doesn't matter what gun you have, those ultimates can make you a little bit more dangerous and deadly. mummAy, though, is going to use the dash in to get around. Headed towards the general direction of Mitch, who's just been holding the S key for the most part. Look at this, though. Tenz might have come out with a knife kill, but Mitch makes sure that he doesn't get a bit too silly this early on in this game. And Relyks as well. Passive from Cloud9, just keeping an eye out, playing safe, and Relyks gets a double kill. Nice little collateral. Under a bit more pressure from Akis. It's going to give chase for the shorty, but unfortunately that shot's going to get a little bit more.
He had an operator for a second there, maybe not realizing that he picked it up, but yeah, there was a few moments in that round where I was like, oh, that could go wrong, or this could go wrong, like if they face in the wrong direction, but the timing worked out quite well for C9 in the end, and we're going to see a 4-2 scoreline, but this is where things get more interesting. Maybe not that interesting? Are we having a judge? Okay. Maybe just trying to play with the broadcasters there a little bit, as mummAy decided to invest into a judge. Now he's gone for a stinger. He's got 4,100? Is that wrong?
mummAy? mummAy? It's just the way that it's spelled. It makes me want to sit in like a Brummy accent. mummAy.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Or like a very young child. Like shouting in a park.
Like the Doctor Who villain.
Yeah.
Hey, my mummAy.
Oh, don't do that. That's terrifying. But interesting patch. Maybe going to use the Bladestorm in this round, and that will give him the extra range, or just feeling confident with a stinger. That's an interesting concept. Either way, looking like about to get a challenge in towards mid. He's got past one, but he actually makes it through. The distraction works for Kaboose. He gets an entry and helps out Akis to get the other. Tenz has just killed himself. Oh, no one else can do it, so he's had to do it for them. This has all gone wrong. Everything's gone wrong for Cloud9 in this round.
He don't miss. Oh no, wait, that's Wardell. He still didn't miss, but unfortunately the wrong target, just himself. A bit embarrassing for Cloud9. And Eclipse's going to add a bit more humiliation to them. It was just a bit of a manic defense there. Really, all of the ultimates came out. It was pure chaos, and Envy seemed to punish that. Vice, the last one alive, is able to get a couple of kills, but can't really beat that triple peak, unfortunately. Cloud9 fans are just going to pretend that round number 7 just didn't happen.
Yeah, that was a little bit ridiculous, I'll be honest. But everything about it, even like mummAy deciding that, okay, I'm going to use my ultimate instead of actually purchasing a weapon. But it never really came into play, as it was so aggressive from Kaboose, just jumping all the way through. And then obviously a couple of players being caught with their pants down a little bit. Aggressive from Mitch, but this time the operator is in the hands of Jet. Maybe not the opening they were hoping for. Vice has had to rotate in. He does have some decent counter utility. It's just going to be holding the angle. This is an open position to take, but actually it's not expected. That's the opener, the flash through. Even the ultimate that he just picked up off that one frag is enough for him to just look to decimate as he sprays through the smoke. 3 kills already for Vice. That all came off the back of that first kill. Now they can just look to try and slaughter the remainder, even throwing in the boombot to try and catch out another. They know that Akis and Calypso are still just around this corner, and even the nades going out of the top to try and deny them a rotation away.
Looking from Vice or Breach. Breach is a good agent, for certain, and Envy are struggling to break onto these sites. Maybe see that there's no Cypher and go, oh, this should be easier to push on B. Mostly gone there other than A, which is kind of surprising. The site and with the rest of the round is probably going to play out relatively slowly, depending on if Envy want to go for it. Akis giving out the heal. You can just see that Cloud9 aren't going to push for this. They aren't going to try and get these guns, the operator, out of the hands of Envy. They're just going to play a bit patiently, scout out intel to just see where they are. We might see Relyks run into a bit of a An awkward engagement here from distance. If he's not careful, there is an operator looking in his general direction. Ooh, is he going to do it? Oh, he sees him. He's going to try and dodge. No, he's not going for it. Safe and certain, I suppose, for Cloud9.
I feel like we've seen some really sick B-side plays now. Like the Shinobi pretty much got, well, I think 2 of his 3 kills in 1 round. And then we saw the same just now from Vice using the Rolling Thunder after getting that first kill. Because I might have misseen him. I'm pretty sure he didn't have it up to the point where he gets that 1 kill. And then that's enough to deny the rest of the team. So it seems like the individuals are definitely there. Relyks as well, having a great performance up the top of the board. Of course, we do, well, at least I have seen from EU as well, that this is quite a defense-sided map. So I wouldn't be too worried if you're an MV fan just yet, especially with how much ground they've been able to get in a couple of rounds. If they can even get to maybe 5 in this sort of scenario, I think they're going to be quite happy with that.
So the running back was interesting for Cloud9 because they actually did spot where the spike was. So the defense know that roughly they're going in that direction. So Envy are pushing to B. Look at where the spike is. Unless they're trying to bait, and we're going to see the Cypher move all the way to plant on A. But they have the site, and all they need to hold it for, like, what, 30 seconds? Or make sure that this payload doesn't get destroyed as it's walking for their own spawn. Bit of an odd run from Envy. They just sort of went for it and realized that they had the spike. Now things have opened up. It's just going to be Tenz on CT. Spike might not even need to be a part of this round at all. mummAy knows exactly where they are. He's low on health, and yeah, it wasn't a key part of the round. It could have been really awkward for Envy, especially if we saw C9 push. They used to run it back, they spotted the spike. So if we saw Cloud9 go, oh, the spike's here, and pushed up and took that area of the map, Envy could have really fluffed their lines there. That would have been a disaster.
Yeah, I guess they maybe just didn't expect to do as well as they did on mid. Like the 2 entries that they managed to achieve, and then just basically changed the strategy midway through. It is definitely interesting, though, to have the spike alone on one side of the map, because if that goes even slightly wrong, as you said, that easily could have gone the other way. Early fault line. Just in case there was an attempted rush, but back to a slower style of play, and the showstopper picked up by Kaboose off of that as well. Could be a free entry. That's basically what I expect of that ultimate, unless you're going to save it for an afterplant, but I'll be honest, if your Raze is saving for the afterplant, I think that might be the wrong play.
The more that I'm seeing this this map play out, the more I'm very much on the side of the lack of Cypher, because the fluidity, I suppose, on where Cloud9 are playing. You've got Tenz moving from A to mid, you've got Shinobi from mid to B, you've got Vice, it's pretty much anchoring at the site. But if you have a Cypher, you always need to anchor onto the B site. But the fact now that they have a relatively fluid composition, they can change up who's playing where. And it makes it really difficult for Envy to get a read on where Tenz is with the operator, where they're stacking, how they're going to anchor particular sites, what kind of utility to look out for. In this case, the paranoia was good that Mitch tried to get on top of it, but unfortunately he does get traded out by Envy, and even then, Relyks breaking the wall, it's taken out in the process. Showstopper's going to be used on the attack onto the B side, but nobody's even really there. The shot misses out on a lot. Shinobi's adding a bit more damage. Akis gets his 3rd kill with a nice, juicy 1 versus 2 with Tenz coming in to try and save the day with the operator.
Whole lot of time either. They're gonna have to go for this pretty quick. The first one's for free. He knows where the second is, and there's nothing Akis could do. He was still in the animation of planting the spike. There's no way he could switch to his weapon quick enough, and Tenz pounces. I think that's one of the easier clutches he's probably had, but one that was desperately needed for C9.
Chaotic rounds for sure. Kind of like I mentioned with Cloud9, you sort of expect that with the composition that they're running. And it would make sense why Envy aren't necessarily too happy to be going towards the A site if that's where Tenz is holding with the operator. And they don't really have the kind of utility that can add too much pressure when it comes to flashes and other kinds of smokes. You usually see, like, maybe double controller with some compositions to just add a few smokes to really snuff out the operator on certain angles. But when you only have the Omen, 2 smokes every, like, 30 seconds and the paranoia, there's not too much utility that can be used to try and counter Tenz. I think that's an area that FNS and Envy are struggling, but he gets a nice pick up to Shinobi, traded. Now 4 versus 4 with a lot of a ruckus happening towards mid, and Cloud9 trying to decide where they want to hold themselves.
Yeah, I think off of this It's been realized that there's at least a couple of players still on the other side of the map, but Tenz is in play. As the paint shells to extend to try and slow them down. He actually goes through, but the no-scope's missed. Maybe hands that one away a little bit. However, Vice is still there to defend. Just hiding in the corner, blind from the paranoia as he is being pushed slowly and a bit wary that there could be someone coming in on the flank. The fact is, they're both around this heaven area. And they're actually going to try and use some dark cover to get him out of there, but I don't think that's quite where he wanted it to land. It doesn't matter for Vice. He peeks out, gets both, but Akis sprays 2 down in return. It's still going to be a tough clutch as he needs 2 more. The aftershock not really clearing anything here, but the blind is going to leave him, well, completely blind. Nice work from Relyks to quell any real danger, and Vice especially, he stayed alive. That's the biggest thing. If he goes down, they get a plant, who knows what happens, but he denies them any chance of that.
Envy must be super annoyed at this because it seems everywhere they go, Tenz is waiting with his operator. The way that he's moving around the site, he's like one of those midfielders in football or soccer if you're that way inclined. There just seems to be everywhere on the pitch. Like, yeah, if you're wrong, you say soccer. It's football. It's real football. And Tenz is just everywhere on the map. But it is nice to see players like Relyks, Vice, and Shinobi especially getting their moments to just clutch out. Because a big criticism of Cloud9 has been, oh, it's just Tenz and friends. It is just Tenz and a couple of other players really sort of fill out the slots, which I think is a bit unfair. And I think this map so far has been a very good show of that. Mitch is maybe adding into the clutch series as well if he doesn't get caught out.
It seems to be a one and done, and in fact, Shinobi tries to give them an advantage and ends up giving it away instead. I feel like mummAy's been doing a good job of getting these entries with that operator, which is something that can be quite tough on Split. A very mid-focal point. Flash is going to leave him blind for a moment, and actually Vice again. He's just holding the fort, but the rest of the team have gone running back. It is the showstopper, at least from Tenz to deny. The flick is so fast. It leaves just one man standing. It's FNS into the clutch. Spectre in hand. Definitely not the gun for the job, but he might not be expected. Seems like Tenz is currently facing in the other direction, but the worry will be from Relyks, and the second player coming in from exactly the same spot. Vice will not be checked for. And an 8-4 half in the end from C9. I think they can be fairly happy with that.
And that's not such a bad side for Envy as well. You know, you're attacking first on Split. It's not as defended-sided as it used to be, but I still think the advantage is very much for those sitting defending the sites as opposed to attacking them. But kind of like you pointed out at the start of this map, at least, this composition for Cloud9 is super aggressive with the agents that it involves. So I don't think they're going to be having too much of a hard time on this attack. But Envy now have their priorities shifting to protect what they can when it comes to space and making sure that that spike doesn't get planted. Let's see how they do. They've got a few ghosts in order to do it. And you can see the Relyks is doing pretty evenly. Akis has got a few frags as well. It's just really to the rest of Envy have a few clutches of their own.
Oh, paranoia versus paranoia. Tenz gets a freebie, and Vice has already picked off. That's the A site open for business. This pistol is already looking over, if anything. There'll need to be some big plays coming out, and Akis has managed to get into ropes before it's been fully taken. I do wonder if that's part of the plan, but Kaboose also manages to get the kill onto Relyks. Tenz is just waiting around this corner. The reason he hasn't got aggressive, well, that gun doesn't exactly work too well at range. His teammate also going to fall. A pistol round looking bleak, but now into a 3 versus 3. The jumping shots, though, from the shorty. Looks for a little more, and that's a high damage shot at least. Kaboose onto 68 HP, but they're still within a chance, and FNS has found Shinobi. It's all fallen apart. It's left onto Vice once again, and he gets the first, but he can't quite do anything else. A 3v5 coming up for MV, and an all-important pistol round as well.
It needed to pretty much be perfect from Envy, and it was. They were very much on the back foot when it came to that retake, but just isolating some of those angles. Making sure that Tenz doesn't get too much done with that shorty, as he always typically does, it feels like. But everybody from Envy firing on all cylinders. The break that they certainly needed. They can pick up this round following, and they're only 2 rounds behind C9, who had a much more dominant defending side at least. So Envy certainly out of this, and it's a best of 3, right? So Envy could, pull it back in some of the other maps we're going to be seeing as we go into Ascent, and then potentially Bind if we go to that 3rd map. But Envy's stats on Split are pretty decent, and C9's aren't. I think that's just the main takeaway from looking at how these teams play on this particular map that we don't often see.
Tenz. And again, we see this aggression coming out. Kaboose. Oh, he's expected for in the corner, and there's been a lot of damage already done. Of course, they do have a Sage, so one of them will be healed at least in response. And if time ticks away, Kaboose will also get back to full health, but he's not going to be given the chance. Nice shot from Vice. A classic King, maybe trying to recreate something we saw from Hazed yesterday. And in fact, Relyks and Mitch have found kills elsewhere. This leaves just 2 players remaining for MV. This wasn't even an investment. This was just some pistols, saving for the next round. This is one they can't afford to let slip, and unfortunately, there's now some weaponry in their hands as well. mummAy trying to do it all, and he will get 2. But there's a chance for the heal to come in for Relyks. At least give him a little bit more of a chance in this 1 versus 1. However, he doesn't know where Calypso is coming from, and the instant headshot will keep MV in it. Both this round and the last have been incredibly close, and more worryingly than that, this is where C9 will buy.
And a lot of the economy that was spent from the sort of half buy that Envy could afford in that previous round means that they can still pick up a couple of Phantoms here or there, but as you see, it's half armor. So the fact that it went down to a 1v1 hasn't really benefited them in the slightest. Cloud9 are going to run with that advantage as much as they possibly can. mummAy's still able to afford the operator and full armor, but maybe there's a little bit of utility that he could be missing. Granted, it's not too expensive for Jet, so I highly doubt it. I was interested to see how NB was stuck on the A site around the time that the majority of the rest of the NV squad that were on the left-hand side of the minimap went down. They were still on A. They were double-checking that nobody was going to try and bait and push from that direction. So the rotation was a little bit slow from them in response, but it worked out anyway. Now we're seeing Cloud9 try and put a little bit of pressure. The camera was in use from the Omen, FNS. So he has an idea that they're there, but like I said, Split is a map where you see a lot of baits and a lot of switches. So right now, NV need to place themselves in the best spot that they can possibly be in and not get punished like they could do in mid, because look how empty it is.
Well, yeah, slightly different stance to what we've seen previously. Normally a fair amount of aggression into mid, and while Kaboose has been left to defend it almost on his own. Now they've managed to get control of ropes, and because of this fact that they are going to go back in towards this B site, of course, now we see the more traditional hold with that Cypher in play, but Kaboose has managed to get in close, and he's already going to spot the push coming in, so now they can start gambling maybe a couple more players. The big worry as well is there's not a lot of time on the clock. They're down to just 20 seconds as they've used the slow from the Sage to make this even more problematic. FNS is almost just playing with his food at this point. He's just pinging them again and again as they push into the site. A double for FNS, and he's done enough here. There's 7 seconds left. They just have to deny the plant, and that's exactly what they'll do. C9, they couldn't do anything versus the Cypher, and it's why we sort of talk about it being a staple on this map.
And why it was so surprising to see Cloud9 not play Vice in that position. He was in a sort of mid position, by the way, Vice on Breach, and I think what maybe Cloud9 were trying to do is kind of say to Envy, hey, we're B main, hey, look at us, hey, look over here. Then it forces all of Envy to rotate around. The Breach in mid can then catch people as they're rotating through the rope room, and then they can maybe push on to A. Those are the kind of plays that you sort of expect on a map like this. But it's very much all or nothing in some cases. And right then, Cloud9 just ran out of time. Envy were quite happy to just keep them at bay. And then once we get to like the 15-second mark and Cloud9 need to rush on, they're going to make mistakes, and it's easy for Envy to punish them. They've got the money. It seems that Cloud9 is going to be sort of ecoing as much as they possibly can. But if there's anything we've seen from this tournament so far, Tom, ecos can be very dangerous.
Yeah, definitely with the level of skill we seem to have in play. The operator, though, looking to deny that, not giving them the chance to get anywhere near close enough to do any real damage. Paranoia going to come through, though, and, well, Akis is there to defend his teammate, not allow him to be caught out. Mitch, in the meantime, alongside Vice, have taken a bit of control, but they've been spotted, and this is a very nice hold. These are the rounds we want to be seeing from MV if we're going to believe they have a chance versus Cloud9. That was clean. The last round was clean. The economy's building, and the scoreline, well, Brian, it's equal now.
It's evened up, and this has been a perfect defend inside for Envy so far. And they're not doing anything too flashy. Like, mummAy's positioning there with the operator was just standard. But of course, C9, saving money as much as possible, aren't going to waste utility in fights that they feel like they're going already into a disadvantage when it comes to the lack of armor and the lack of guns going into an op. So they're just going to try and push it, I suppose it would be. It wasn't pretty. mummAy's going to take those advantages as much as he could get, but now we're seeing Cloud9 be able to buy again, have a few ultimates. The runner back is available for Relyks if he wants to use it, and he's already been rather aggressive.
Joke's over! You're dead!
Yeah, it seems like he is going to use it and down the wall as well, but a nice shot ready from mummAy to deny at least that presence. Tenz finds one, but it's very quickly traded out. It seems like the attackers have decided to switch their play a little bit further towards mid. The problem is Calypso is already aware of this. He's holding the rotation. First kill all too easy, a second as well. Doing his job perfectly. And already you can see the Cypher of FNS is just waiting patiently in case they try and go back in that direction. I don't think it matters what Mitch does here. 1 versus 3, he needs to isolate the duel, and Akis is already waiting for it.
And Envy aren't resting on their laurels at all. They're not kind of going, oh, well, what we're running when it comes to where players are standing is working. Let's just stick to that. They moved FNS over from B to A. So they are changing where they're playing plays, similar to what Cloud9 did an awful lot on their defense, just to keep Cloud9 guessing. And it does give Envy the lead for the first time meaningfully, at least that we've seen so far on this map. And they seem really comfortable on the defended side. It's going to be another awkward buy. Shinobi's going to pick up the Phantom, but really money is not good Cloud9 at all, so they just need to be careful, and really, Envy seem to have a hold on this side so far.
Ooh, I mean, you can't give Tenz anything. Oh, I enjoyed watching him in Counter-Strike, but this seems to be a whole different ball game. Incredible individual skill, and it seems like this game just complements that. Akis trying to defend the gun, if anything, but he's got to be a bit wary after his teammate falls. And, well, this time it's Mitch's turn. They're taking turns with the Sheriff. And now there's the potential for a couple of guns, and they've brought Tenz back from the grave. This is starting to get scary, considering they haven't had an attack-sided round just yet. They're currently in a 5-on-3.
Vanessa's a aggressive angle to look at rope room, but needs to be careful of Relyks' positioning here. No doubt he still has a flash available if he wants to break on through. Actually, no, he's out of utility completely. Just a frenzy and I hope that he could break on through. And now FNS is going to be put under a little bit of pressure, decides, nope, I'm out. Calypso has a nice little off angle too, is able to get one, but his positioning given up. He's going to try and hop, skip, and jump out there as much as possible. Tenz is going to put some pressure on, and even an aftershock tried to use. Calypso gets a second, but eventually the Phoenix could grab him up. FNS is still trying to anchor this site as much as possible. We are seeing the Rays come to his rescue a little bit, but there's so much pressure, so little time for Cloud9. But luckily, the Cypher has it all under control. And Cloud9, even with that sort of save, put a lot of pressure onto Envy, but they still didn't buckle.
Yeah, really good recovery. And I really want to give props to FNS, because I feel like he was getting almost brutalized when it came to the first half. Obviously, being a Cypher, your role is pretty much to just deny rotations a lot of the time. We know that it comes down to that defense. It is that shot in slow-mo. It is just beautiful. It's a thing of beauty from Tenz, but it wasn't enough, and they got the 2 opening picks again. It was something I mentioned in the pistol round, that there's now been a few rounds where they've had advantages and they've slipped away. This one, a little bit more forgivable because of the weaponry, but at the same time, I think they needed to clear FNS sooner. And something he did amazingly well is he stayed alive for a long, long time.
Super important. Akis gets a nice pick up to Tenz. There's no Resurrect to bring him back this time, but Mitch is going to trade up to make sure that the Resurrect doesn't get used on the defending side, which could be a bit of a tricky situation for NB. They do have 3 ultimates available on this defense. Neural Theft from the Shadows and a Blade Storm, if we do see the Jet wanted to use it. A couple of big decisions that Envy need to be making.
these next few fights are going to be so important. The thing as well is we mentioned how many flashes they have on this aggressive side, and they seem to be struggling to get a lot of these openers that aren't just based off individual brilliance. At the moment, it's going all the way of Envy. That seems to be happening once again. The rotation, though, allows Mitch and Relyks to both find picks. The hot hands thrown in to try and deny some space from Jet, but it doesn't work. He's going to make his way into heaven, but he's walked in with his knife out instead. And finally, after a long hiatus from the board, Cloud9 are going to manage to pug their way through one. Even still, though, I feel like there was a few timing moments there for Envy. I don't think that was as clean as it maybe looked.
With the Blade Storm dedicated as well by mummAy, it didn't quite have the impact that you were sort of hoping for, at least. There's a showstopper available now if Cloud9 want to keep their momentum going by picking up this round. But the issue is, because Envy won 6 rounds in a row, their economy is going to be somewhat decent, at least for a couple of players. However, if Envy lose this map, you got to 10-all, and it would seem that Envy would be forced to save at least a little bit of money. So Cloud9 have a nice opening here to turn things back into their favor. Whether they get to use it, though, that remains to be seen.
Once again, it's the lone soldier of Tenz looking to try and battle into mid. The problem is, a lot of the time, I feel like it's maybe a pick and then a trade. Something Envy have been quite effective with on this defense is just making sure that, okay, maybe he gets away with a kill, but that's about it. He does have his showstopper, however, and no matter who you are, you're going to be terrified once that ultimate gets popped. There's also the run it back. So 2 of the most aggressive ultimates available in this round. So if they are utilized by C9 and they don't win, this will be a very good point for Envy.
And this was Relyks playing super aggro at the start to get that ultimate orb on B main. So they knew their win condition was to grab that ultimate and see what they could do with it. A lot of pressure going to be put towards A. A lot more utility used out of Akis. Already used the wall, used both his slows. Now, if you see Tenz wanting to use the showstopper, there's very little to stop him taking that ground, and that's exactly what he's going to be doing. So Akis needs to be super careful here, especially with the run it back dedicated to bait out, actually. They're going towards A. They're just getting the Phoenix to be a distraction.
Oh, that's rough for Calypso. He uses the paranoia to at least slow them down. It's down to this man once again. FNS, he gets one, but he can't quite stop the second. Has he bought enough time, though? Has he got to try and get to the site with the spike? It's just about going to be planted within the nick of time, and that leads them into this 2 versus 3 situation. A missed shot for mummAy actually causes Akis to go down. Kaboose from above trying his best, but it's Shinobi to find the trade, and now it's just down to Kaboose, and he can't do anything. Tenz up with 3, and a strong but very tight round from C9.
Now that is a round that you want to grab and almost do like a breakdown on YouTube, right? It was clever, it was Relyks, you know, using some utility early on to get the ultimate orb to bring his run it back, then using it in mid to go B, pulls Envy to think that that's the direction they're pushing, but he was there just to be a massive distraction and bait for the rest of his team, who then went through rope room, brute forced it with a showstopper, and got a nice pick straight away onto Calypso. Really well played from Cloud9, some nice cerebral play and strategies that you love to see. Akis has been struggling on mid. He's either been killed or having his utility burnt out. This wall has pretty much been going up every single time in mid in the first 5 seconds or so. And it's not really, you know, it's getting destroyed straight away. And that's 400 credits being thrown down the drain. And a lot of utility forced out by Envy just to try and keep Cloud9 at bay.
The aftershock expended to try and clear some of the closer angles. I've done some damage already. Mitch is actually going to be there with the operator, and FNS is just being whittled away. He can't survive all this utility. Those abilities that do damage, they can really be costly. Luckily, the shots of Kaboose brought them back into contention. His escape is not going to be allowed, though. Mitch again with a second opening on that operator, really stepping up in this round. Could be left down to just 2, a chance for C9 to take themselves the lead, but they do have to deal with both. Well, I was gonna say with mummAy, but he's already found a pick onto Vice. They haven't been able to do just that. The spike is planted, and there's actually a relatively long rotation coming the other way. If they can get the denial, if they can get the kill into Relyks, they have a chance here because the rotation's taken a while to come in from behind. Luckily, Relyks has done enough. Mitch has actually found his third with the operator. A couple of step-ups, I feel, Ryan. Shinobi in the last round as well, in that clutch situation, able to TP the spike to the site within the last couple of seconds. And this round, Mitch now stepping up with the operator. A few players who've had a couple of quieter rounds, but now stepping up when C9 need them most.
Yeah, and you mentioned Omen. Calypso dedicating from the shadows just to get onto the site to help mummAy, who was doing well but was stuck in a 1 versus 3 waiting for his teammate who was over on A, double checking that they didn't push onto that site. So I think Envy have been a bit flat-footed the last couple of rounds at least, and I think Cloud9 have really punished that. Kind of knowing roughly that Envy are going to be holding on this corner, using a bit of utility to punish it. Just like now, right now, mummAy's put under pressure. He can still get the kill onto Relyks, which is pretty incredible. Forces out the resurrect early from Cloud9. But there's situations where Envy is being punished, so it's nice to see Envy almost judo throwing him around by baiting with the bait almost.
A bit of a quieter initial start to the round. There's something we've seen a lot initially. With all players still standing. At least for now. They did, I guess, lose one, but it's forgiven this time. FNS in a much closer stance. You mentioned he's been rotational. It doesn't stop him being shot in the head, and this actually leaves this A site very vulnerable indeed. A little bit more of a gamble in this round from the defense. But for now, Cloud9 is still edging from what it seems towards that B site.
And Envy are playing very passive. Obviously, their guns aren't good. But generally, over the last few rounds, have been playing like the one-and-done angles that you called. Calypso could be caught out here. Takes a nice fight, but wasn't expecting Tenz to be hiding in his own smoke right next to him. Site is going to be planting on B. Akis wasn't quite sure where people were. Relyks is going to stare him right down in the face with the Phantom. Now, Cloud9 started this side of the half, at least, pretty lackluster. 6 rounds in a row that they lost, but now they've won the last 4. And most importantly, they are on match point.
Oh, this is a nice spot.
Yeah, I think we've seen a momentum switch for sure. Every single member of their squad stepping up. Tenz up to his usual tricks, but Relyks has been there alongside him all the way through. I want to see a little bit more from mummAy as well with that operator. He's had his moments for sure, getting some opening picks. It looks like he's going to be pressured. Tenz goes past at the speed of sound. However, he hits the shot anyway. But he's under quite a bit of pressure here. There is still going to be the Omen up above. As we do witness Tenz just making his way through. Already finding a second in the round and leaving mummAy with that ultimate. And he walks straight into him. That is rough. Tenz even using the ultimate, and he has a chance to get the pick, but it won't quite go his way. And 2 trades actually come back because of that level of aggression. This gives Kaboose an opportunity, a chance for them to bring this round back as Relyks. And now Shinobi trying to TP him from behind. It's not going to work for FNS. That big brain is sitting hard on his shoulders, and it leaves Relyks now 1 versus 4. The ultimate should do enough. He's actually still alive, but not for long.
And Envy through everything. I kind of was like, oh, that's a really smart play with Shinobi to teleport this like CT to try and catch them out. However, he did just kind of leave Relyks to hold the site on his own. He's like, all right, I'm going to head out. And Relyks is like, no, please stay. I need your help. It's like, my people need me. Teleports out, instantly gets killed by Envy. So this is a bit rocky. Cloud9 will look to be in pole position. Envy can still afford. Luckily, Cloud9 can too, so we could go into overtime, run it back available for Cloud9. They used it so wisely last time. Can they replicate that same kind of form? And Neural Theft, FNS hasn't been getting first bloods or anything, so we might not see much of this ultimate because we haven't seen much of the ultimate at all so far, at least. This is going to be a big round for both sides, as you can imagine. Envy could take this map. It was their choice. And they really need to if they want to really take this game to Cloud9 over the best of 3.
I'm always worried whenever Relyks has his run it back. He's been a player that they've struggled to deal with, and a lot of the time they use this ultimate to help set up the remainder of the team. Sell it as a bit of a fake or look for an entry elsewhere. But now, though, it's a little bit of a cagey affair. Just patient play as you mentioned, the neural theft on the other side, probably not going to play too much of a part unless it's a clutch situation or somewhere where they need to find out the remaining angles. And both teams are a lot more passive than what we've seen previously. Eventually, we do witness those pushes beginning. The run it back makes its way through. Calypso definitely knows Tenz is here, and that's an impactful kill. One of the danger men from this Cloud9 roster already gone. They've only got 30 seconds. This is something C9 have been doing regularly, though, is running that clock back. Calypso, he's heard all the footsteps, but he's just going to fall back. They've looked at the time. They've realized there's only 20 seconds. Like, realistically, what can C9 do from this point? There's not enough time on the clock. Akis as well, perfectly placed to find another kill. They have to go now, and this crossfire is sublime. Envy are going to take us to overtime. They catch it off at the end after what was a great initial streak on their defensive side. And unfortunately for C9, they couldn't quite take it over the line after they got 4 rounds in a row.
And this is where it becomes big. Ultimates don't seem as prevalent. Only reset after every single round, and a set amount of money that pretty much allows you to buy what you can. The only issue is if you want to pick up the operator, you can only afford that and half armor, as mummAy is doing. Interested to see what Tenz tries to decide to do. It's the first overtime that I've personally seen. I know there's been a few. There's been some ones that have gone really long, and I don't know how long it'll take for these two teams. Cloud9, when they start to have a bit of momentum, they really do run with it. But as soon as Envy put a bit of a spanner in the works, it takes them a while to warm up again. So this could really go either way. Envy's map pick, Cloud9's worst map. Let's see how it goes for both teams.
Yeah, again, they're going to fall into middle. We've seen a few more passive plays coming out, at least on the Envy defense, realizing they didn't want to be taking these opening duels versus the likes of Relyks and Tenz. Even Mitch stepping up with the operator in the latter rounds. The slower ones was what worked for them. Instead, though, it's going to be complete mid-pressure here coming out from Envy. Shinobi in the corner is going to be completely isolated. He needs at least a kill. If he gets a kill, it's not the end of the world. And there's the first. He's not going to be able to get out of there, though. And in fact, Mitch has fallen in return. So this does give that advantage over to Envy. Of course, every round is so crucial when it comes to overtime. And Kaboose has come up trumps at the perfect time. However, something they struggled with regularly on this site was getting rid of Vice. And somehow, he's still surviving. How's he alive? Eventually, FNS is there to close him out. Leaves us in a 3 versus 1. It's Relyks alone. The spike planted with plenty of time to spare. No ultimate, of course. It's very difficult to get in overtime. Does at least have his flashes.
Going up.
Also going to be using the Blaze just to try and give him some extra space to clear some angles. But the fact is the remaining players are just sat back, patient, waiting in their crossfire, not giving him any ground, any faces, any fights to take. Although eventually FNS will peak. It doesn't matter, as the jet of mummAy is waiting, and Envy take back the lead.
And Mitch dying, I think he was using the wall as a boost and cut out there. Yeah, you were right with the Shinobi play, sort of leaving him on his own so long as he gets a kill and gets traded. You know, they asked for so much, but Mitch dying in that situation too really did open the door for Envy to just barrel on through to the B site. And unfortunately, Relyks tried to be creative with his utility towards the end with a Phoenix, but damage was done. Vice couldn't really get an anchor hold defending onto the site. Now it's Cloud9's turn to attack. Envy win this, they win this map on split. Cloud9 win it, then we go again. Switching sides after every round, economy and ultimates reset. And it really is a case of who could just build up momentum naturally. No guns, no economy going over different rounds, no ultimate economy either. It's who can play the best over 2 rounds in a row.
That's not the best start. FNS is going to get a free kill onto Tenz. Seemed like the utility used there didn't really work out quite the way that C9 were hoping. They hadn't tried anything like that in a while, and not even checking towards the ropes. It's a freebie. That's 2 now that have gone the way of Envy. Looking to at least get themselves the first map, and I think it might be done. There's only 2 remaining. Make it just 1. As now Shinobi has to try and clutch this out. The man who's currently bottom of the board has to try and do it all. 5 players stand in his way. It's been a strong defense on either side, but it seems like this time it will be Envy to take the victory. They do just about